Hi everyone, welcome to Parliament Horn of Africa. I'm going to invite you now an interview with Fevan Taklahamanut, a woman who's working hard to comfort and rehabilitate the sexual rehabilitate the victims and the survivors of this gender-based violence. So it will give you the insights what happened in Tigray, and please stay with us.
Eradicate you. We want to purify your blood.
How have you been? Well, you're right. I mean, earlier you've said that it's very difficult to only give emotional support without doing anything. And how have you been able to accomplish so much while living under siege in Tigray? I mean, you've been operating obviously without banking service. We are all in the same boat. Telecommunication and essential medical supplies. I mean, what has that been like to you to operate under siege?
If there is anything, any little thing that I did in those 6 months while the genocidal war was occurring in all over Tigray, if there is anything that I did, and if there is still anything that I'm still doing to support the survivors has to take all the credit. You know why? Whenever they share the stories and I was there with them, they say that I haven't been laughing for 3 months. This is the first time that I laughed from the bottom of my heart. They say that I haven't talked to anyone that public rape survivors, anyone knew, and they didn't talk about it. So they keep it to themselves, and some just talk about it, aside from the survivors and everything. It was very traumatic for them. So they came and they talked freely, they shared their experiences, and I wasn't judgmental, and they say that I feel relieved. I mean, I actually feel relieved.
There's a sense of relief when they open up, when they talk to you.
Exactly. So they shared this because of the things that I did, those little things that I did, because I was there just to listen to them. They say that this is the first time that I laughed in 3 months. This is the first time that I feel relieved. I mean, I feel relief that I talk in the first session, that means. So witnessing that, it was, for me, until now, I couldn't sleep without providing anything. I'm not going to sleep. I mean, of course I'm going to sleep. I'm not saying that I'm going to sit the whole night or anything. I sleep, but in the morning when I wake up, that's the first thing that I remember. I remember their stories. I can imagine
that you've been through countless sleepless nights.
Yes, at the moment.
When caring for more than 300 sexual violence survivors. That's obvious.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes.
It is, right?
Yes. People say that psychotherapists, they shouldn't engage emotionally with their survivor, with any patient that they see. What happened in Tigray, it doesn't allow you to be
detached from the reality.
Yes, you have to be human. Exactly. You have to be human. There's this person that I really respect, and he's helping me with mentorship. He's in his 60s or 70s, I think. He's a great man. He's been doing a lot of things for the whole world, not only for Tigray, not only for Ethiopia, but for the whole world. I'm going to share his name when the right time comes when we publish the book. And he listened to the interview I recently did with the DW, and he said that, people say I was very emotional, and people say, but some says that a psychotherapist shouldn't be there, she shouldn't engage emotionally with survivors. And I told them that she's only human, and if you experience what she experienced with the survivors that she has been seeing, you'll be doing a lot more than that. Yeah. What happened in Tigray? It changed everything. I mean, you cannot say this is not scientific, this is not right or anything. No. You provide what you can do. And the sleepless night, it only showed that I was human. At the time being, I was crying. I was crying at nights, not with them. There was also moments that I cried with them. I knew it wasn't right. I cried with them. Some patients, we exchanged places, like I was crying. I was being very emotional, and they were tough. And they say they were mothers. The first patient that I saw, it was in Addis, and she was in her 50s. And the thing that she experienced, it's only bad that a woman in her 50s experienced sexual violence.
Yeah.
But what happened to her was, horrible. And she was there sharing everything, and they stab her with a knife after they rape her. She also have a physical violence. And she was right here with a strong spirit, and she was sharing everything. I was crying, and she wasn't. And she was helping me to be strong. She was saying that, my child, they came here for a long time, to stay for a long time, and they're gonna do a lot of things. And you're gonna see women, girls, and child who survive horrible things. More than this, you're gonna see more than this, and you have to be tough. We have educated girls like you, and we're lucky. She was saying this, and I was crying and everything.
It's very comforting on the other hand as well.
Exactly. We exchanged places, and it was all right. I said, I felt bad at the time. It should be me, comforting her, teaching her skills and techniques, That's what I was saying, but, it was all right. Now that I think about it, what happened in Tigray, it also allows you to exchange places with a survivor. Tigray's women, they have a strong soul, and she was there. Yes,
the unbreakable spirit.
Exactly. She survived the sexual violence in her 50s. It's horrible. We should be doing something to help her with the retirement and everything. But she survived the sexual violence, a physical violence, and her spirit was very strong. And she was one of the women that I get help to stand still. So to answer your question, the testimonies, the experiences that I had with the survivors, it allows me to stand still. And I'm not going to sleep until I provide the multidimensional and holistic care they need. That
they
is
deserve,
physical.
Of course.
Yes. It's not only mental health and psychosocial support that they need a physical or medical support at the time being. There are plenty of women who are suffering from medical care need. So they're going to need medical care need, they're going to need psychosocial support, they're going to need economical support. Many of them, they survive also economical violence. Their houses, their properties, all of the things, all of her belonging have been looted or distracted. So they're going to need an economical support. We're going to have to work on a livelihood support. And also they're going to need spiritual support. Most of them, they say that, I don't think there is a God. If there is a God, I wouldn't be surviving I wouldn't be forced to experience such a sexual violence in this age. They could be so young.
Day.
Yes. So we also have to provide this spiritual support by the right people, by the spiritual leaders, by the religious fathers. So they're going to need holistic care. And to answer your question, the reason that I'm still standing still, despite of the blockade, despite of the siege, despite of the lack of money, despite of the lack of cash, despite of the lack of medication and everything, it's because of the testimonies that I heard. It's because of the experience that I shared. It's because of the emotional attachment, the professional alliance that we build with the survivors. And I've studied their need. They need multidimensional support. And I'm not going to sleep until I provide that. And I want to say this also. There's always something to do. People, when I start this project, I'm going to share with you in another session. After we finish establishing the center, we're establishing a center for survivors of sexual violence. People say, what are you going to do? So you're not
talking about the safe house where the sexual, violence survivors stay.
Center.
So you're not talking about that?
Yes, we're establishing another center. It includes all the one-stop centers and also additional things. I would like to talk about this. The one thing that makes it special is it's holistic. When we say it's holistic, all of the supports, all of the multidimensional needs that the survivor need will be provided in this center, not separately. So we're going to make it that. The other thing that what makes it special from the centers that we have is it's going to do 4 things at the same time by different multidisciplinary professionals. The first thing is working on the model of treatment. So we have to figure out what sort of model of treatment is going to help survivors to recover and rehabilitate fully. So we have to study model of treatment. What kind of model of treatment? What has been done in the whole world, in Rwanda, Bosnia, Darfur, Democratic Republic of Congo. So we have to see that, and we have to contextualize it to our culture, to our norms, to our women. Exactly. We have to localize it. So the first thing that we do, that we haven't been doing, what makes it special is we're going to study the model of treatment. We're going to study what is going to be best for the survivor to rehabilitate fully, not only mentally, not only physically, but fully, not only economically. So we're going to work on the model of treatment. Second is training. This center is going to provide training to anyone who's going to be engaged with any survivor of sexual violence. So it could be psychologist, it could be sociologist, it could be layperson. We have a women association in our structure, in our regional structure. And this woman of association is 1 up to 5 and 1 to 30. We're going to use those structures and we're going to train them to provide a support, a layman person support for the sexual violence. So to educator ones, to healthcare professionals, to anyone who's going to be engaged with sexual violence, we're going to provide learning materials and provide a training support. That's the third thing, preparing learning materials. So we're going to prepare learning materials. It could be guidelines, it could be manuals, it could be self-help books and everything. So the third thing that we do is we're going to provide the learning materials for them. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to be there for them, and we're going to provide all these supports by studying the model of treatment, by preparing a training, and by preparing a learning material. We're going to be there, provide all the support, using all the forces that we trained. This is what makes it different. So what I was saying is that people has been saying that we cannot do this right now. We're in siege and plug. Of course, there are problems. I mean, we're struggling with them. We don't have anything, for that matter. We don't have anything to establish this center. But what I want to say is there's always something to do. For example, I wrote 2 books, and it has been translated into, and we're going to have 5 books at the end when we finish. And we can write, we can study, we can be there in our area seeking for testimonies and show the whole world what happened in Tigray. And we have to allow the world to see the real picture, the exact picture of the genocide that they perpetrated in Tigray. So there is always something to do. The question is, how much are you trying? And I'm trying. I mean, I'm trying as much as I can to be there for the survivors. And you know what? It worked. I mean, we're establishing a center, and we haven't even established. We're in the process, and we're having implementing partners, international angels. They're saying that we have dignity kit in our store, so we can give you, having a dignity kit for a survivor by this time. Like the economic situation.
It's the most precious
exactly. Having it's not a small thing to do. So this international angel, they say that we haven't even established the center yet, but they say. We have 3,000 dignity kit. You can take it and you can provide that. We don't have cash, but we can do this. We have professionals who can work on training. So if there is any way that we have the cash, until we have the cash, let's work on the training materials and everything. There's always something to do. The real question is, how much are you trying? And we're doing this, and I'm doing this, and I'm standing still and being strong and, fighting for them, advocating for them, establishing center for them, working on projects and everything because of them, because of the experience that I had in those 6 months. All the credit has to go to all the survivors who survived sexual violence in Tigray.
Great. Hope this will be realized soon. And I think my next question is a bit different. Just I wanted to relate one story. In 2018, Peace Prize laureate Dr. Denis Mukwege treated more than 50,000 victims of conflict-related sexual violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yeah, that's true.
Believe in performing reconstructive surgery on patients, ranging from only few months old to over 80 years old. But you were sharing, I think the max was 75 years old.
Yeah.
And at what scale would you like to be able to perform your operations?
That's actually a great question. That's a great question. The center that we're establishing, as I told you, It's going to follow a holistic care model of treatment. And the one best practice, a benchmark that we used is Dr. Dennis's. I'm glad that you raised it. This person, this professional, he said that he's a physician. And while treating a person, a woman or a child or a girl who survived sexual violence, a brutal one, they have also a history of brutal sexual violence in DRC. And he said that after he treated her physically, she healed. I mean, physically she's healed. But, I mean, her spirit was broken. And I wonder how she's going to live like before, at least. And he said healing them physically wasn't quite enough. So that's when he came up with Pansy model. He has a model, this model of treatment, which is effective. It has been evidence-based, it has been scientifically studied. And he said, he called it Pansy model. They called it actually, the institution in general. It's called Pansy model. And he said that healing a woman, she's not only womb. The woman is not only womb. She has a psychological makeup. She has a mental makeup. She has a social makeup, for that matter. She has a family makeup, and she has a lot of makeup. She's a whole person. She's not only a physical entity. So he said that we have to also work in other dimensions. So he has been studying. He said that the first thing we have to do is that after her physical, her physical health, he said that there is a psychological health, there is a mental health. We also have to work that. He said that the economic also aspect. She has a family that she has to treat, and if you just heal her physically and go back, she's going to go back and see her children starve. She's not healed. We're not helping her in any recovery or any rehabilitation. So he said that there's also an economy. He said that there's a spiritual, there's also a legal entity. If you provide physical, psychological, economical, and spiritual support, and she didn't get any legal, support,
justice should be served.
Exactly. The justice has to be served. And he said that it has to be a combination of these supports totally. So he developed this Pansy model. And as you said, he treated thousands of women, girls, and children in Democratic Republic of Congo. He's also working in other states now, other than DRC. Me, as an individual who saw the pain and suffering of more than 300 survivors, what I want to do has 3 levels. The first one is individual level, the second one is family level, and the third one is community. What I want to do for the survivors individually is that I want them to fully recover from the sexual violence and its consequence. I want them to fully recover from its consequences. So I want to have this, this project. It could be a center that we're working on. I want to work personally with them, with a lot of energies, not only me as a professional alone, with multidisciplinary team. I want to provide a physical and medical care. I want to provide psychosocial support. I want to provide economic support. I want to provide spiritual. And then I want to have all the documentation for legal support. So the first thing what I want to do individually is I want to reach to any survivor who survived sexual violence in Tigray and help her to recover with all dimensions, the multidimensional support that she needs. In a family level, the stories that we hear, the book shows a lot of things. And the stories that we hear is most of the women have been raped publicly in front of the community member,
at least out in the open.
Exactly. Out in the open, purposely and deliberately. They took them outside of their house. While they can't rape them in their house, they took them deliberately and they raped them in front of other people. Women are running, people are fleeing, they're trying to do a lot of things. They stand there and rape that woman. It was a public rape. And most of them, they were raped in front of their family members, their children. For example, the woman that I shared her story, the woman who survived sexual violence by 14 Eritrean soldiers.
Yeah.
She was raped in front of her 2 children. One is 12 years old, and the other is around 20 or 21. He couldn't bear it. He left and he joined the TDF force. The child is still with her, recently received a message from her. She said that she wants to contact, and her child is asking about me and everything. I would like to see her. So, we cannot heal the survivor. We cannot only provide individual support. We have to work on the family makeup generally. Exactly. Well. So we have to also support. I personally would like to work on a family support, not only the individual level. I want to see the children. I want any therapist, any psychologist, sociologist, any health care professional to provide a family support also. So our holistic care support is going to include also a family level support. So at individual level and also family level. The final level that I want to work on is a community level support. So we have to work in the community. As I told you, the impact of genocide or rape. If it's sexual violence, the impact is only on the individual. Maybe if it's perpetrated by a family member, if, for example, her uncle raped her, you have to work in the family structure, of course. The impact of genocide or rape is that it's not only on the individual level, it's not only also in family level, it's a community level,
as I told you. Destroying the social fabric.
Exactly. So we have to work on the community so that we don't lose our social fabric, so that we don't lose our social well-being, so that we don't lose our well-being as a group. So I would like also to work in the community. I would like to work in advocacy, in empowering women. I don't want sexual violence to be normalized after this. One impact of genocide or rape is it become a new norm. In DRC, that's what's happening still. It's happening still. It has become a new norm, sexual violence. So we have to work in the community level. To answer your question.
So that it doesn't become a new norm.
Exactly. We have to protect this generation and the coming generation from experiencing any sexual violence again. But also there's a consequences that come, a social impact that the genocide or rape left on them, left on all of us as a group. So I have to work on that. So what I want to do, as you mentioned, what has been Dr. Dennis have been doing, I want to establish a center. I would like to have a lot of projects. I would like to initiate anyone who would like to work on this to stand by their own, by sharing experiences, by sharing stories, by sharing skills and techniques. I want to have as many as me, establish a lot of centers, establish a lot of civil societies, establish a lot of projects, and we have to reach the individuals at individual, family, and community level. That's what I want to do. And by doing this, we have to follow a holistic care. I would like to have a Tigray-centered recovery and rehabilitation model. Like DRC, they created this Panzi model and it worked for them. He helped 50,000 women, girls, and children to rehabilitate and recover fully. So I also would like to do that. And finally, what I would like to do is I would like to reach to any woman in her house who survived sexual violence. I don't want even one woman to be left without being recovered. It's a damage even for the society, not only for her, not only for her family, but also for the society. So I would like to reach as many as them, as many as survivors. In my life, in my entire life, I have found a passion. I have found something to live for, and this is something that I'm going to live for. And at the end, if you ask me what I want to see and what I want to accomplish, I would like to accomplish as a vision a rape-free Tigray. In general, a wartime, peacetime rape. We have to work on it.
As we move on, this is, again, a different question, but related to what happened in Tigray. But also this has been my question, to be honest. At times when you share or tell stories of sexual violence or other atrocities committed on Tigray, Ethiopians, I repeat, Ethiopians seem to view it as a fact blown out of proportion. At times, there is denial. Therefore, what should Ethiopians residing here and abroad know about realities of sexual violence committed in Tigray?
It's really sad we have been living for thousands of years together. And I personally, I don't want any woman, any girl or child to experience sexual violence. When I read about DRC, Dr. Dennis's experience, it actually hurts. I mean, I feel the pain of the survivors. They're not Ethiopians. They're not Tigrayans. They're just women, girls, and children. No one should be experiencing that experience. So I feel their pain. I empathize. I expect more from Ethiopians. When you're, it shouldn't be borders, that should tie us together. It shouldn't be borders, There should be something that we have to share. The first thing that we have to share is I have to feel your pain. For starter, if there is any chance that I have to stop from the things that cause you pain and suffering, if there is anything that I can do to stop it, I should. You shouldn't be suffering. You shouldn't be surviving any violence, any sexual violence, any physical violence, any torture, any killing, or anything. So, as Ethiopian, if there's anything that I could do, I have to.
It's a very sad news.
Exactly.
And as human beings, we should all share this.
Exactly.
But what went wrong there? I just want to know about that. Why people cannot accept this or deny it or ignore it?
Yes. The first thing is it has happened. What happened in Tigray? The genocidal rape that has been perpetrated in Tigrayan women, girls, and children. It was perpetrated by Ethiopian forces, Amhara forces, and forces who have been invited by them, and Eritrean forces. So accepting this happened by our own force. Most of the Ethiopians, they supported. I don't know, we cannot scale it in a percent or something. Most of the Ethiopians, they supported when their forces were coming. They were providing a lot of support, a lot of, emotionally, psychologically, of course, but materially. They have been supporting them and accepting the truth that what we say, they might not send them to do this, but after they did what they did, accepting that the forces that we sent, supporting physically, psychologically, materially, to accept the truth that the forces that we sent, the forces that we invited, have been doing this. It's a hard truth to swallow. I think it's a very hard truth to swallow.
It's a very bitter pill.
Yes, exactly.
Indeed.
So I think there are big challenges to accept that the forces that they sent, they supported with full support. Even religious leaders and religious fathers have been blessing them to come. Yes, exactly. Yes. So to accept the truth, the hard truth, that our religious leaders blessed and saint had perpetrated such, it's not even animalistics, no any creature in the whole world to perpetrate such an act. So to accept the hard truth that what we have been sending to Tigray, the forces, what we have been inviting outside, perpetrated such a horrible thing that the world even didn't experience before. To accept this truth, to swallow it, it's a very hard experience. I think they're being challenged.
And my final question, of course, aside from showing concerns, or the international community has been quite passive in taking concrete action to resolve the problems faced by survivors here in Tigray. Mm-hmm. So going forward, what is expected of every stakeholder, be it the international community, the government, or relevant experts, to help alleviate the trauma that sexually assaulted women and girls are faced with here in Tigray?
I still believe that we have hope. We have hope. That means that there are some people who who helps me not to give up on them, not to give up on Ethiopians. They share the pain more than anyone. They actually feel the pain when I share them the experience, my experience. That means. So we have to put it out in different languages to anyone in the whole world to learn about it, to know about it, what happened in Tigray. This is the second thing. I think the third thing is, and I should have put it this in the first place, but since I told you, if you don't know what happened, if you don't know the nature, cause, and consequence of something, if you don't understand that, there's nothing you can do about it. That's why I didn't put it in the first. So what we have to do, the other thing is, most of the survivors, they believe that it's their fault on some level. So they say, if I didn't flee, I wouldn't have been raped. I would have been
saved.
Yes, exactly. If I didn't stay in the house, I wouldn't have been raped. So they pick one thing. We call this selective abstraction. Selective abstraction is you have this negative distortion thoughts. So you put one evidence and you put it there. So, you think that you're right. So most of them, they have self-blame, they have guilt. And we have to make sure that we have to let them know that it's not their fault. So the first thing that we have to do is for any survivor who survives sexual violence and other atrocities, we have to let them know that it's not their fault. This happened because of the forces who came deliberately and intentionally to perform such an act. It has to be clear, not because they flee, not because something was wrong with them. So I want to make sure for anyone who engaged with sexual violence survivor to make sure that it wasn't her fault. The second thing is we have to say anyone in the whole world, Ethiopians, of course Tigrayans, and then Ethiopians, Africans in the whole world, anyone have to say, I'm here for you. This way we can heal them.
It is too late. It's like, don't you think it's too late for Ethiopians to say, if they say, I'm here for you, don't you think, how will be received by Tagaro? I mean, isn't it too late to say that? I mean...
I only see this as a professional, I only see this in the side of the survivors.
Yeah, I mean, will it help? Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That's we're on the same page. Isn't it too late even for the survivors to say, I'm here for you?
Yes.
But
yes, it's they are of course late, too late, of course. But it's I think it's better than not being there in general. And I'm going to share this as a professional. We're gonna need as much help as we can from the whole world, including Ethiopia or anyone who's interested to provide. The first thing is emotional. And the first support that we provide is emotional. And the emotional support that we provide is wherever we are, if we say that, if we acknowledge their pain, that I'm sorry this happened to you, the least thing that we are expected to provide is emotional support. And by doing that, we have to say that I'm here for you. I'm sorry this happened to you. And then we continue to other things and we provide multidimensional support, of course. And to answer your question, of course, it was too late. It is too late, of course. It's rather, I choose if anyone is late than being, rather than disappearing or not being there fully for generations. So I want anyone in the whole world also, not only for Ethiopians. I mean, as I told you, I would like to go to Darfur. I would like to go to DRC to support anyone who survives such a brutal.
It's better late than never.
Yes, it's better. That's the right expression. So I would like the whole world to say, we as a Tagaro, Ethiopians, Africans, and the whole world to say, we're here for you. We acknowledge your pain. We're sorry that this happened to you. We'll make sure that this never happen again in any generation, in your group in general. But we're sorry that this happened, and we have this to provide. We have this to do. And if there's nothing that you can do, you can talk about it. That's the least thing you can do. I ask my friends, they say that there's nothing we can do. I mean, we feel your pain, but they say there's nothing you can talk about it. You can talk about it in social media. You can talk about it in radio, in the programs that you have. You're not doing it. So there's always something to do. So after acknowledging it, after saying, I'm here for you, at least we can talk about it. We can let the whole world to know what happened in Tigray. And I would like to share this experience. There is a community in Europe, and it's a Tagaro community, but the leader, she's not Ethiopian. She's not Tagaro. She's not from the group. And she felt all the pain of the survivors. And she's been doing a lot of things. She's been supporting me with a lot of things. She's been supporting a lot of us in, doing something. And I always say thank you. I mean, it's a means of course, being polite and being grateful.
Yeah.
And when I say that, she hates it. You know what she say? She say that you Tagaros have to stop saying thank you and being so grateful for anyone who tries to help you. This is a responsibility that we all have to share. I don't have to be from your ethnic group to share your pain. We all should have this. Exactly. She said that.
Humanity.
Yes. And when you ask me, I forgot to mention this about Ethiopians, what we have to do, because they're thinking that this is just a say-so, because they're thinking that this is a makeup that I'm talking about. And I would like to say this, there's nothing we have to do to prove them that this happened in Tigray. Anyone come to Tigray. Everything that I have been sharing with you, everything that I have wrote in the books, Everything that we talk about survivors, it's in the ground.
Anyone can proven
exactly
on the ground.
The only thing that's expected from them is to come to the ground and to say it in the ground. There's nothing that we have to do. And this girl, she said that it's a human thing to do and it's a responsibility. It's not even, it's not because I'm doing you a favor. It's a responsibility that any human should carry when something happened, when something horrible happened to some group, such an act. And I want anyone to share that, I want anyone to share her spirit that it's a human thing to talk about Tigrayan survivors of genocide or rape. It's a human thing to talk about it and to ask for help. This is the other thing that I would like to say. The other thing that we can do, experts, any institution who's working in intervention, as an emergency program or anything, I would like to call for collaboration. We're establishing a center. We're going to have an implementing partner, civil societies, NGOs, and everyone. So who's working in such areas, who has an emergency program in sexual violence for Tigray. I'd like to call for collaboration, for partnership and everything. In any ways I would like to. And we can also provide the model of treatment and they can stand by their own and work. But I would like to call for collaboration and partnership in this area. And finally, what I would like to say is we need a holistic care for survivors. We shouldn't be giving them an immediate relief economically. Giving them 1,000 now is nothing. It's not going to, of course, it's something than nothing, but it's not going to help them since they have their own physical illness that they're suffering, since they develop psychological disorders, since they have suffering from other spiritual issues, since they don't get justice. Their pain and suffering hasn't been even recognized. So I would like to say we need a holistic care. If there is anyone in the whole world, if there is any institution, even it could be one person, I am one person, and in the past 1 year I've tried to do a lot of things. If there is even one person in the whole world who is passionate, who has been feeling the pain of the survivors.
Starts with a single state, right?
Exactly.
One state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no small thing. I mean, anyone can do. As I told you, if you speak about it, that's an amazing thing that you do for survivors. So I would like to recommend that we need a holistic care, a multidimensional support for survivors. Anyone who can provide that. I know there is a blockade in siege, and as I mentioned earlier, there's always something that we can do, and we will make it happen. They can only contact us.
Thank you very much, Faven, for your time and for your professional analysis. Hope we talk to you again on another edition. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's it for this edition. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, bye for now.
እንዴት ናችሁ? ሁላችሁም ደህና ናችሁ ወይ? ሰላም ናችሁ ወይ? እዚህ የተሰበሰባችሁ ብዙ አይደላችሁም፣ ብዙ መሆናችሁ አይደለም። ትልቁ ነገር ይሄን ፕሮግራም ያቀረብኩበት ምክንያት እንደምታዩት ሩሱ ላይ CNN BBC አልጀዚራ ብያለሁ። ይሄን ነገር የጻፍኩበት ምክንያት CNN እና BBC አልጀዚራ ጋዜጠኞቹ ወይም ሚዲያው ተቋሙ እንዲያየው አይደለም፣ እነዛን ሚዲያዎች የሚከታተሉ ሰዎች ጋር እንዲደርስ ነው። እንደዚህ ርዕስ ጽፉ CNN የሚያዩ ሰዎች CNN ሲጽፉ ይሄም አብሮ ይመጣል። CNN የተያያዘ ነገር ወይም BBCም አልጀዚራ የሚሆኑ ሰዎች ማለት ነው። ወደ ሲቪሊያን ኢብራሂም ከድር ደውልልሃለሁ ወንድሜ። ሰላም ብያለሁ። ሶፊዬ፣ ማረን፣ ኢብራሂም፣ ገነት፣ ሁላችሁንም ጄይ፣ ሁላችሁንም አበባ ሰላም ብያችኋለሁ። አማራ ብርሃኑ እንዴት ነህ? ያው እያየህ ነው መቼም የደረሰው በደል ሴቶች እንዴት ስንፈር እንዳደረጉ ትግራይ ውስጥ ያዳመጥከው እንኳን መቋቋም የማትችለው ነገር ነው። ለልጅቷ ራሱ ስትናገር እኔን ታጽናናኝ ጀመረ። የተደፈረችው ሴት የ15 ዓመት ልጅ ብዙዎቹ ቤተሰቦቻቸው ፊት ነው የተደፈሩት። ብዙዎቹ ህብረተሰቡ ፊት ነው የተደፈሩት እና ዳሜጁ ቀጥታ ተደፋሪዋ ጋር ብቻ አይደለም፣ ቤተሰቧ ጋር ዳይሬክትሊ ነው አክቹአሊ ቀጥታ ተጎጆች ናቸው። ማህበረሰቡ ራሱ ይሄን ያየው የስነ ልቦና ስብራት ይደርስበታል እና ትግራይ ውስጥ ቦምብ ሲወድቅ ያላየ ጥይት ሲተኮስ ያልሰማ ህፃን ምናምን የለም። ከዛ ውጭ ደግሞ በእንደዚህም አይነት ስነ ልቦናችን ታሽቷል እዛ ያለው ማህበረሰብ ማለት ነው። በጣም ኢምፖርታንት ስለሆነ ነው ያቀረብኩት። ሁሉ ነገር ከአሁን በፊት ብዙ ጊዜ ስል ሰምታችሁኛል። አልመዳን እንተካዋለን፣ የተሰረቁ በዋቃዎችም ሆኑ ምጣዶች ምንም ይተካል፣ ንብረቶቹ፣ ልብሶችም፣ ሁሉም የፈረሱ ቤቶች እንተካዋለን፣ እናድሰዋለን። የማናድሰው እነዚህ የተደፈሩ እህቶቻችንና ይሄንን ያዩ ይሄን ዊትነስ ያደረጉ የሰማነው ተጎድተናል። ትክክል ማለት ነው። ይሄን ዊትነስ ያደረገው ማህበረሰብ እና ፈጽመህ እና በጣም ያሳዝነው ይሄ እነዚህ ሴቶች ህይወታቸውን ሙሉ ነው የሚያድናቸው። ህይወታቸውን ሙሉ ያድናቸዋል። እስከ ዕለተ ሞታቸው ድረስ ያድናቸዋል። ስፔሻሊ በመጨረሻው የህይወት ክፍላቸው የመጨረሻው ዘመናቸው ላይ ከዚህ ወጣቶች የተደፈሩት ከ45 ከ50 ዓመት በኋላ 50 45 ከሞሉ በኋላ እያደነ እያሳደደ ያሰቃያቸዋል። በህልማቸው በእውናቸው ማህበራዊ ህይወታቸውን ያመሰቃቅለዋል። ህልማቸውን ያቆሽሸዋል። ኑሯቸውን በቴረር በፍርሃት የተሞላ ያደርጓልና ሴቶቻችን ላይ የደረሰው ያን ደግሞ ያዩ ማህበረሰባችን ላይ የደረሰው የስነ ልቦና ጉዳት ይሄ ፊስቱላ የደረሰባቸው ያቆሸሿቸው ምናምን ከቶ አንጀታቸውን ያበላሹ በኋላ ተገቢ ባልሆነ ሶዶማዊ ድርጊትም ያደረጓቸው ሴቶች ወንዶችም አሉ። እነሱ ይሄ ፊዚካል ዳሜጁ እሱ በህክምና ይስተካከል ይሆናል። የማይስተካከሉ አሉ። ቢያም በቃ ምንም ማድረግ አንችልም። እነዚህ ሌሎቹ ግን የማይታየው አካላዊ ጉዳቱ ከታከሙ ከተሻላቸው በኋላ የማይታየው የስነ ልቦና ጉዳት የሚነገር አይደለም። ስለ ይሄ ጀንደር ቤዝድ ቫዮለንስ የሚያውቅ ሰው ይገባዋል። ምንድነው የትራውማው ውጤት ምንድነው? አስባችሁታል? ዓለም ላይ የኖራችሁ በፍራቻ ውስጥ መኖር አስባችሁታል? በሚሊዮን ሰው ተከባችሁ ብቻችሁን ስሜት መሰማት፣ ሁል ጊዜ በፍራቻ ውስጥ መኖር፣ ሰውነታችሁን ሲነኳችሁ እነዛን የሚያስታውሱ ድምጾች ስትሰሙ፣ ቃላቶች ስትሰሙ፣ በተደፈራችሁበት ሰዓት የሰማችሁት ቃላት እየመጣ ፊልም ስታዩ ያ ቃላት ሲጠቀሙ አርቲስቶች ዘፈን ላይ ስትሰሙት በለቅሶ ቤት በሰርግ ላይ በማህበራዊ ህይወታችሁ ላይ ያን ቃላት ስትሰሙ ቀጥታ እንደገና ወደዛ ሞመንት 5 ዓመት ይለፍ 10 ዓመት ይለፍ ያን ቃላት ስትሰሙ እንደገና በሮ እንደ ወፍ በሮ እዛች ቀን ላይ ያስቀምጣችኋል። ያቺ ቀን ላይ ያ ሳምንት ላይ ሴቶቹ በግሩፕ የተደፈሩበት እያሳደዱ እየሰደቡ የደፈሩበት ግን ሰው ካልሆንክ መገንዘብ ከባድ ነው። እነዚህ ሴቶች ካሁን በኋላ በፍራቻ ውስጥ ነው የሚኖሩት። የስነ ልቦና የስነ አእምሮ ህክምና ተደርጎላቸው ትንሽ የተሻለ ነገር ላይ ይደርሳሉ። ትንሽ የተሻለ ውጤት ያገኛሉ። ግን ፈጽመን አናነጻቸውም። ከዚህ በደል ትዝታ ውስጥ አናወጣቸውም። የሚያስረሳ ሁሉ ነገር የሚያስረሳ መድኃኒት ያለፈ ህይወታቸው ሙሉ ለሙሉ እንኳን የሚሰርዝ መድኃኒት ቢኖር ያ ተሰጥቷቸው ቢሰረዝ የተሻለ ነበር። ግን የለም። ያ ሁሉ ህይወትህን ደግሞ ያለፈውን ልጅ እንድትረሳውም አትፈልግም። ግን ከሁሉ ህይወት የገዘፈችው ያቺ ሳምንትና ያቺ ቀን ናት። ምንም አይነት ደስታ፣ ምንም አይነት ብር በዓለም ላይ ያለ ብር፣ ምንም አይነት ሀብት፣ ምንም አይነት መዝናኛ ቦታ ካሪቢያን ውሰዷት፣ ኒያግራ ፎልስ ውሰዷት፣ የቻይና አንሴንት ሞንክ እንትኖችን አሳዩአቸው፣ ሞናስትሪስ፣ ተጅማል ውሰዳቸው፣ ኤፈል ታወር ውሰዷቸው፣ ፒራሚድ ጋር ውሰዷቸው። የሚለወጥ ነገር የለም። የሄዱበት ቦታ ሁሉ ያሳድዳቸዋል። ሴቶቻችን ያን ያዩትም ወንድና ሴቶች ይሄ ነው የሆነው። ይህንን ነው ስታጨበጭፉ ስትደግፉ የነበራችሁ የምትደግፉ ሰዎች። ፍትህ ለነዚህ ሴቶች የመጀመሪያ ተግባር ፍትህ ነው። የመጀመሪያ ተግባር ፍትህ ነው። ለነዚህ ሴቶች ፍትህ መስጠት፣ በዳዮቻቸውን ማቅረብ ኖት ኦንሊ እነዛ መሪዎቹን ይሄን ነገር ያደረጉትን አመሰግናለሁ ወንድሞቼ እና እህቶቼ። መልካም ቀን። እስኪ በኋላ በእልልታ ኢንተርቪው ጋር እንገናኛለን። እሷም እነዚህ የተደፈሩ ሴቶች ምናምን ታሳይናለች። ቪዲዮ አለ፣ ኦልሬዲ ቪዲዮ ልካልኛለች። እሱን ይዘን እንመጣለን። መልካም ቀን ለእናንተ ይሁን። መልካም ጊዜ